I see a shalom in the future. We have one more chapter for the evening, and we're going to get right into it. Let's pray. Father Yahuwah, you have the words to give me that your people need to hear. Please give them to me. Enlighten us all with your being. And we praise you, and we pray in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Okay. New angle on account of I've never sat on a couch so much in my life, and so now this couch has couch depression in it. I got another couch over there, which we might switch to at some point. Do like a monthly different seat type deal. Now I've got this backrest here. Thumbnail. Alright. Psalm 19. Let's read it. Let's sing it. Let us see. What was it? Rock of Ages? We're going to save Rock of Ages. Find another Morgan Whalen one. Okay. Heavens are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the expanse is declaring the works of his hand. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech and there are no words. The voice is not heard, their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he set up all time. For the sun and its like the bridegroom coming out of his womb, rejoices like a strong man to run the path. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit to the other, and the night is concealed from its heat. The Torah of Yahweh is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of Yahuwah is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of Yahuwah are straight, rejoicing the heart. The command of Yah is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of Yahuwah is clean, standing forever. The right rulings are true. Yahuwah, they're righteous altogether, more desirable than gold, but much fine gold and sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. Also your servant knows warned by them in guarding. Then there is a great warrior who discerns mistakes. Declare me innocent from concealed mistakes. And also keep your servant back from presumptuous ones. Do not let them rule over me, then I shall be perfect and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing before you, O Yahuwah, my rock and my redeemer. All right. It was good. We're getting better. We're getting better. Praise Yahuwah. Thank you for blessing me to sing your praise. The heavens are proclaiming the esteem of Elohim, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, and there are no words. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he set up a tent for the sun, and it is like a bridegroom coming out of his room. It rejoices like a strong man to run the path. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit to the other end. And naught is concealed from its heat. The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of Yahuwah is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of Yahuwah are straight, rejoicing the heart. The command of Yahuwah is clear, enlightening the being. The fear of Yahuwah is clean, standing forever. The right rulings of Yahuwah are true. They are righteous altogether. More desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. Also, your servant is warned by them. In guarding them there is great reward. Who discerns mistakes? Declare me innocent from concealed mistakes. And also, keep your servant back from presumptuous ones. Do not let them rule over me. Then shall I be perfect, and innocent and of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing before you, O Yahuwah, my rock and my redeemer. That would have been a better song to sing this to. My rock and my redeemer. But I didn't know. So it's alright. We did a good singing. I don't know that I could have made all this. I don't know. So, rapper, but not necessarily a musician yet. The heavens are proclaiming the esteem of El. I will be a musician. Yahweh will make me a great singer. The heavens are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand. Well, so, okay. We're going to go to Genesis 1, but we're going to go to James. (2:18). But someone might say, you have belief and I have works. Show me your belief without your works, and I shall show you my belief by my works. You believe that Elohim is one. You do well. The demons also believe and shudder. But do you wish to know, O foolish man, that the belief without the works is dead? Was not Abraham our father declared right by works when he offered Yitzchak his son on this slaughter place? Do you see that the belief was working with his works, and by the works the belief was perfected? And scripture was filled, which says, Abraham believed Elohim, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness. And he called him, he who loves Elohim. You see then that a man is declared right by works, and not by belief alone. In the same way, was not Rahab the whore also declared right by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works. Now, you might be saying, This wasn't about Abraham. This wasn't about belief. This wasn't about works. And this wasn't about Rahab. Nor was it about Horeb. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Okay? And the earth came to be formless and empty, and the darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be." And light came to be. And Elohim saw the light that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. And Elohim called the light... verse 6. And Elohim said, "Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse heavens, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. Okay, so why are we reading this? Because if we go back to the Psalm, which is number 19, the heavens are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand. Oh, so we did have the word work in there. So the point of this is that if you look all around you, the heavens are proclaiming the esteem of El. So the fact that he created the heavens and the earth is his esteem, right? And the expanse is declaring the work of his hands. All of the expanse, everything in between, the heavens and the earth, is the work of his hands. So if you look around, this is often used by people who argue with people who, this is often an argument for, does God exist? Well, look at this. How does a tree exist? How does a tree put off the oxygen that we need to breathe and take in the carbon dioxide? How do the waters tide against the land, right? How does, a butterfly flap its wings and, the worm knows when to take itself into a cocoon and metamorphose into a butterfly? So all these great things. I had a girl show me once a picture of a sunrise, and she said, "How can you look at this picture and not think an artist painted it?" And obviously it's a live sunrise, and there's more about the sun. But my point here is that oftentimes, this is an argument for the fact that God exists in the first place, is that if you look around you, how can all this wonder have come to be based on two atoms hitting each other? Because it's a very variable, sporadic expanse, right? When there's, it's the splitting of an atom that makes a hydrogen bomb, and it's the splitting of a hydrogen atom and a hydrogen bomb, and then it's the splitting of a uranium atom in a nuclear bomb, right? And so we've got, just multiple atoms splitting, the larger the bomb gets, and, we can add to it, and we can, grow it, and then we've got payloads and whatever. But if you look at the destruction and the chaos that is brought about by the unbondable atomic structure, right? Because binding atoms give structure. We've got H2O, two hydrogen, dihydrogen oxide, right? You've got two hydrogens and an oxygen atom coming together uniformly to make water. And then we've got things like sodium chloride, table salt, NaCl, with a negative charge. And so, So, got things like peroxide, all kinds of chemical compounds that we get. And those are structured atoms, right? And so even things that are found diatomically in Earth, which hydrogen is, so is chlorine. They're diatomic elements where they're only found in pairs by themselves. And so, helps with the stability, whatever. But you have the propensity for structure in proper atomic bonding, but in the collision of atoms, the breaking of bonds, look at the particle accelerators that they're doing in Switzerland. They're trying to recreate the Big Bang, and the Big Bang is within the order of Elohim. So they're not going to destroy the universe on Earth putting two atoms together, because that's not how it happened. Elohim said, in the beginning, Elohim's created the heavens and the earth. And Elohim said, let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So, like, there's no excuse for that which is coming to be upon the existence of what we call natural reality, the world we live in. The only explanation is Elohim. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. I mean, and this is just credence to Genesis right here. This is beautifully poetic, and this is the original argument for does God exist. I never knew that this was in here, but Elohim truly does give us everything that we need to fight for him here on earth, and we are his advocates. We are his mouthpiece, that he does what he does and knows what he knows. And so this here is just so poetically saying that day to day brings forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. In the same way that the heavens are his esteem, and the expanse declares the work of his hand. There is no speech and there are no words. They don't do this verbally. They're not making a case. They're not debating themselves. Their existence is proof. Their existence is the fact that the sun rises every day, regardless of what you do, no matter what's going on in the world. The sun's going to rise on the east and set on the west. The moon as well. Day by day, night by night. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Is there war? Is there peace? Did your baby shit on the floor? Did your dog shit on the floor? Did you have potatoes for breakfast? Did you have potatoes for dinner? Did you have breakfast for dinner? Did you have steak and eggs at lunch? Who cares? Who gives a shit? The sun's still going to rise. The moon's still going to rise. The heavens is the esteem of Elohim, and the expanse declares his work. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. Okay, their line. They have their line, like a play line, like a line in a speech, like a line in a verse in a poem, has gone out through all the earth. All people of the earth know this. Every single one of them understand that the sun rises and the sun sets. There is nobody on earth who doesn't experience the manifestation of the majestic creation that is Elohim's speaking into existence, which we talked a little bit about in Psalm 18. At your rebuke, O Yahuwah, at the blast of your nostrils. Oh, Psalm 18:15. And the channels of water were seen, and the foundations of the world were uncovered at your rebuke, O Yahuwah, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. Okay. So, and their words to the end of the world. Even though there is no speech, they are explained from corner to corner on the entirety of the world. Every single existing speck of dust, Yahuwah knows. In them he set up a tent for the sun, and it is like the bridegroom coming out of his room. It rejoices like a strong man to run the path. Okay. He set up a tent for the sun. So a place for the sun to dwell at night, which would be the other side of the earth, because we know that the earth goes round and round. And so some might say, well, this is ignorant, because they just thought that when the sun went down, it like would go into a tent and then just come back in the morning. But they could also track the stars and constellations, so they knew that the earth was spinning, because year after year the cycles of the moon and the stars, the sun, the moon, the stars are for signs and appointed times. So when the star comes back around, they know that it's a year, they know that it's rotating. You know, like, they understand all of this. This is a analog, this is a metaphor for the sun having a place to dwell at night. Okay? And it is like a bridegroom coming out of his room, right? They know the bridegroom is still in the room, but now he comes out when the sun rises, the bridegroom comes out of the room. It rejoices like a strong man to run the path. There is no hindrance to the sun. Nothing's going to stop the sun from going through its path. It goes through the same path day after day. You know, it moves based on the rotation of the earth and the tilt and the season and whatever, but there's nothing stopping the sun from taking its course every day. It is like a strong man. It cannot be stopped. Strong man! Roar! Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit to the other end, and naught is concealed from its heat. So it rises at one side, it has a circuit, it has a path, it goes to the other end, and we know that, we see that every day, every single day since the beginning of time. Well, you know, since the beginning of the creation of the sun, which is actually on day 4. But because we get day and night, but if we go to Genesis 1:14, and Elohim said, "Let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it came to be so. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 4th day. So, yeah. This is when he creates the sun, and naught is concealed from its heat. Whether it's the rising of the sun, the light of the sun, the path of the sun, the heat of the sun, there's no escaping it. It is that it is. Okay. The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, bringing back the being. Okay. So if we're going to be perfected in Yeshua as Messiah, what do we need to do that? There's another perfect thing that Yahuwah made, and we're perfected in Messiah. We should probably do the Torah, correct? Bringing back the being. Oh, well, okay. Resurrected. We read in 1 Corinthians 15 all about the resurrection of the dead, bringing back to life. So, Yeshua is the Word made flesh. Now, what word is that? Well, of course, that's the Torah. because that's the word that he followed in order to have the perfect heart condition and be sinless. So we know how to do this. We have instructions on how to do this. That's what the word Torah means, is instructions. It doesn't mean law. It means instructions. The instructions on how to be perfect. The instructions on how to be a human. Gravity always goes down. Water always flows downhill. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. A dog knows not to eat 3-week-old dead meat. The butterfly knows when to go into its when to come out of its cocoon. The worm knows when to go into the cocoon. The flower knows when to blossom. It knows when to bear fruit. It knows where to spread its roots, what birds know where to nest for safety. All of these have their Torah, right? Even the ostrich that lays its eggs in the sand that we saw in Job 40, I want to say. And it may seem to us that Job 39, 14, she leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust, and she forgets that a foot might crush them or a wild beast tread on them. She treats her young harshly, as if not hers. Her toil is in vain without fear, because Eloah has made her forget wisdom and did not endow her with understanding. Okay, so go back up to 13. The wings of the ostrich flap joyously, but it is not the pinion and plumage of a stork. They're different, but they all individually have their Torah. We are the only overly complex ones made to rule and subdue all these other creatures and beings, and so we need this written down in order to do it day by day. We need to be in this word, cultivating a relationship with Elohim in private and studying this to be the perfect human. Because although Yeshua died for our sins and he walks, a lot of this, we don't have Pharisees that we go around and rebuke. And I dare you to go to your senators and say, woe to you hypocrites, senators and representatives. You tithe the mint and the rue and the anise and the cumin, but neglect the weightier matters of the Constitution. You tax the tea and you tax the cigarettes and you tax the sugar, but you do not preserve the First Amendment of freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and the Second Amendment to bear arms, and the Third Amendment that the soldiers don't have to be given dwelling to you, that we don't have to allow the government into our presence having restriction over our household to where they can foreclose us for not paying taxes, or in the Fourth Amendment where we have right to deny access without warranted search, or the Fifth Amendment or the Sixth Amendment, and so on and so on. And so go to your senators and rebuke them like Yeshua rebukes the Pharisees in Matthew 23 about the laws of the Torah. Go see how that works for you. And I dare you, because you don't have the balls to do it. So, what does he want us to actually do? He wants us to live by this Torah because it's perfect, and it is the instructions for how to have the heart condition that Elohim designed us to have before we fell in sin and unrighteousness by the deception of the enemy. Okay? Praise Yahweh. The witness of Yahweh is trustworthy, making wise the simple. Yeah, my word does not return to me void. The witness. I bear witness of the Father. My witness is not of me. I do not bear witness of myself. Okay. John 5:30. Of myself I am unable to do any matter. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I do not seek my own desire, but the desire of the Father who sent me. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. There is another who bears witness of me, and I know that the witness which he witnesses of me is true. You have sent to Yohanan, and he bore witness to the truth, but I do not receive witness from men. But I say this in order that you might be saved. He was the burning and shining lamp, and for a while you wished to rejoice in his light. But I have greater witness than that of Yohanan, for the works that the Father gave to me to accomplish the works that I do bear witness of me that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me, he bore witness of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form. And you do not have his word staying in you, because you do not believe in him whom he sent. You search the scriptures because you think you possess everlasting life in them, and these are the ones that bear witness of me. But you do not desire to come to me in order to possess life. I do not receive esteem from men, but I know you that you do not have the love of Elohim in you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you would receive. How are you able to believe when you are receiving esteem from one another, and the esteem that is from the only Elohim you do not seek? Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moshe, in whom you have set your expectation. For if you believed Moshe, you would have believed me, since he wrote about me. But if you do not believe his writings, how shall you believe my words? Who wrote the Torah? That's a trick question, because it's actually Elohim in Exodus 31 and 34. 31 and 33. 31, 32, and 33. But Moses wrote the scroll of the Torah. Well, I guess technically Yahweh wrote the two tablets, the Ten Commandments. Whether or not they had all the way to Deuteronomy up there, I don't know. Not qualified to speak on that. But as for the end of Deuteronomy, Moses wrote it. Possibly Joshua finishes it, but it's credited to Moses. We know that. And so this has been used too to say, well, we don't have to keep the Torah because you search the scriptures because you think you possess everlasting life in them. And these are the ones that bear witness of me. Well, sure, definitely, because Yeshua said it and therefore it is. However, if we look at the whole point of having the Torah in Deuteronomy 17:18, and it shall be when he sits on the throne of his reign, that he shall write for himself a copy of this Torah in a book from the one before the priests, the Levites. So the Levites have a copy of this book at this point, per the words of Moses in Deuteronomy 17. So we know that there is a written entirety of the Torah, and it's given to the priests, the Levites. And so the Levitical law, the laws in Exodus, the history of Genesis, the story of Numbers, at this point, up to this point, there is a Torah created. And then we even see in Deuteronomy 31 that you are to read, and Moshe commanded them, saying, Deuteronomy 31:10, and Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of 7 years, at the appointed time, the year of release, at the festival of Sukkot, when all Yisrael comes to appear before Yahweh your Elohim, in the place which he chooses, read this Torah before all Yisrael in their hearing. So still, going into Deuteronomy 31, we're to read this Torah. Now, why does the king have a copy of the Torah? Let's find out. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, so that he learns to fear Yahweh his Elohim, and guard all the words of this Torah and these laws to do them, so that his heart is not lifted up above his brothers, and so as not to turn aside from the command right or left, so that he prolongs his days in his reign, he and his children in the midst of Yisrael. Top of 20, so that his heart is not lifted up above his brothers. It's the heart condition. You have to believe and you have to do the works of love. Now, one might say, well, to fear Elohim. Good question. So, what does it mean to fear Elohim? As we have in Job 28:28, and he said to men, see, the fear of Yahuwah, that is wisdom, and to turn from evil is understanding. Okay, so, well, we want to be wise, and what do we do with that wisdom? Well, we want to make it into everlasting life. How do we do that? Let's go to Matthew 7. Let's go into 7:11. If you then, being wicked, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more shall your Father who is in the heaven give what is good to those who ask him? Therefore, whatever you wish men to do, do also to them, for this is the Torah and the prophets. So that the heart is not lifted up, and that we fear Elohim, we have wisdom, okay? Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter it through it. Because the gate is narrow, the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. But beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. Okay, so what we're doing with this wisdom is entering in through the narrow gate, so as not to turn aside from the command right or left, so that he prolongs his days in the rain, he and his children in the midst of Yisrael. So, okay, where do we see elsewhere this prolonging the days in the land? Well, let's go to Exodus 20. Verse 12, respect your father and mother so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. Cool. So, if we're looking for the proverb where it says that the Do not forsake the Torah of your mother. Proverbs 6:20. Should have known, because we go to Proverbs 6 all the time. My son, watch over your father's command and do not forsake the Torah of your mother. Well, yeah, this is in a book of wisdom. And so, all this to say, I want to find you one more witness here. Matthew 5:17. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reigns of the heavens. For I say to you, that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. You heard it said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that whoever is wroth with his brother without a cause shall be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. But whoever says you fool shall be liable to the fire of Gehenna. If then you bring your gift to the slaughter place, and there remember that your brother holds whatever against you, leave your gift there before the slaughter place, and go. First make peace with your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Be well-minded with your opponent promptly, while you are on the way with him, lest your opponent deliver you to the judge, and the judge to the officer, and you be thrown in prison. Truly I say to you, you shall by no means get out of there till you have paid the last quadrant. You heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, that everyone looking at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with his heart. And if your right eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. For it is better it is better for you that one of your members perish than for your entire being to be thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is better that one of your members perish than for your entire body to be thrown into Gehenna. And it has been said, whoever puts away his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever puts away his wife except for the matter of whoring makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who has been put away commits adultery. Again, you heard it said that to those of old you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to Yahweh. But I say to you, do not swear vainly at all, neither by the heavens, because it is Elohim's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great sovereign, nor swear by your head, because you are not able to make one hair white or black. But let your word yes be yes, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one. You heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the wicked. But whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. And he who wishes to sue you and take away your inner garment, let him have your outer garment as well. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks of you, and from him who wishes to borrow from you, do not turn away. You heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those cursing you, do good to those hating you, and pray for those insulting you and persecuting you, so that you become sons of your Father in the heavens, because he makes his sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. For if you love those loving you, what reward have you? Are the tax collectors not doing the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what do you do more than others? Are the tax collectors not doing so too? Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. Okay, so that is Yeshua taking the physical heart condition example from the written Torah. How do you act out these commands? How do you not murder? How do you not adulter? How do you love your neighbor? Therefore be perfect. And he even says the sun rises on the wicked and the good. The rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous. Okay. Now, the orders of Yahweh are straight, rejoicing the heart. Yeah. We read this in John 17. Nope, we read this in John 15:11. These words I have spoken to you so that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be complete. All the teachings of Messiah. This is why he did this, because that your joy, so that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be complete. The orders of Yahweh are straight, rejoicing the heart, joy. The command of Yahweh is clear, enlightening the eyes. Well, we got about 1,200 pages of clarity here, so if you need more help, email me, dylanbibles@gmail.com. But I'm going to assume that you haven't read this whole word yet, because one, we haven't together, and two, if you have read this whole word with the proper heart condition, then there's no way that you're still questioning what I think that you'd be questioning here. So, enlighten your eyes. The fear of Yahweh is clean, standing forever. What is the fear of Yahweh? Wisdom. Wisdom stands forever. Yeah. Because wisdom is done in truth, not folly. If we look at, all the proverbs that contrast the wise and the folly, the wise and the fool. Proverb 10, a wise son makes a father rejoice, but a foolish son is his mother's sorrow. Wisdom has built her house. Does not wisdom call and understanding lift up her voice? Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. A wise son accepts his father's discipline, but a scoffer shall not listen to rebuke. Everyone with insight acts with knowledge, but a fool spreads folly. The wise fears and turns away from evil, but a fool rushes on and is reckless. He who is impatient acts foolishly, and a man who plans wickedness is hated. The simple shall inherit folly, but the clever are crowned with knowledge. Okay, so it seems that Proverb 14 is a good one for this. Proverb 15 as well. A fool despises his father's discipline, but he who heeds reproof is clever. The lips of the wise scatters knowledge, but the heart of fools is not so. By loving commitment and truth, crookedness is pardoned, and in the fear of Yahweh one turns from evil. Okay. You getting this? How much better it is to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding is preferable to silver. The highway of the straight is to turn away from evil. He who guards his life watches over his way. The witness of Yahweh is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of Yahweh are straight, rejoicing the heart. The highway of the straight is to turn away from evil. Turn away from evil and rejoice your heart. That is the joy. He teaches us how to turn away from evil and rejoice the heart, because if we're running around lusting after women, it's painful when we get rejected every 3 days, or 3 seconds, depending on how many women you look at in a day. The right rulings of Yahweh are true, they are righteous altogether. Yeah. There was somewhere where it said, all that a man does is good in his eyes. Proverbs 16:2. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Yahweh weighs the spirit. Deuteronomy 7:18. And you shall do, Deuteronomy 6:18. And you shall do what is right and good in the eyes of Yahweh, that it might be well with you. And you shall go in and possess the good land of which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to drive out all your enemies from before you, as Yahweh has spoken. When your son asks you in a time to come, saying, what is the meaning of the witnesses, and the laws, and the right rulings which Yahweh our Elohim has commanded you? The witness of Yahweh is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of Yahweh are straight, rejoicing the heart. The command of Yahweh is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of Yahweh is clean, standing forever. The right rulings of Yahweh are true, they are righteous altogether. The witnesses, the laws, and the right rulings, which Yahweh our Elohim has commanded you. Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Mitzrayim, and Yahweh brought us out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. And Yahweh sent signs and wonders, and great and grievous, upon Mitzrayim, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household, before our eyes. And he brought us out from there to bring us in, to give us to the land which he swore to our fathers. Yahweh commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahweh our Elohim, for our good always, to keep us alive as it is today. And it is righteousness for us when we guard to do all this command before Yahweh our Elohim, as he had commanded us. Now, mind you, this is the same chapter, just 13 verses before, where we see, hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them on your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahweh your Elohim brings you into the land of which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, and to Yitzchak, and to Jacob, to give you great and good cities which you did not build, and houses filled with all kinds of goods which you did not fill, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. And you shall eat and be satisfied. Be on guard lest you forget Yahweh, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage. Fear Yahweh your Elohim, and serve him, and swear by his name. Do not go after other mighty ones, the mighty ones of the peoples who are all around you. For Yahweh your Elohim is a jealous El in your midst. Lest the displeasure of Yahweh your Elohim burn against you, then he shall destroy you from the face of the earth. Do not try Yahweh your Elohim as you tried him in Massah. Diligently guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, and his witnesses, and his laws which he has commanded you. Now let's just take it from the top of 6. And this is the command, the laws and right rulings which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess, so that you fear Yahweh your Elohim, to guard all his laws and his commands which I command you, and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days be prolonged. And you shall hear, O Yisrael, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you in a land flowing with milk and honey. That is the blessing that we get from doing these things, acting this way, acting upon this word. More desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than the honey and the honeycomb. Sweeter than the honey from the land of milk and honey is the rejoicing of the heart in Elohim. And the command, the enlightened eyes, the rejoicing heart, the wisdom and simplicity, the bringing back of the being, all more desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than honey. Also, your servant is warned by them. So this peace, this unity, this oneness that is proposed for Israel is more important to the being than all of the milk and honey in the land. Also, your servant is warned by them. In guarding them, there is a great reward. Yeah, that reward is the blessings. We're going to go to a couple places. Matthew 10:40, but we're going to start first in Hebrews 10:35, bearing witness of this, and then we're going to have another witness after this. Do not then lose your boldness, which has great reward, for you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the desire of Elohim, you receive the promise. For yet a little while he who is coming shall come and shall not delay. But the righteous shall live by belief, but if anyone draws back, my being has no pleasure in him. But we are not those who draw back to destruction, but of belief to the preservation of life. And belief is the substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen. For by this the elders obtained witness. By belief we understand that the ages were prepared by the word of Elohim, so that what is seen was not made of what is visible. By belief Abel offered to Elohim a greater slaughter offering than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous, Elohim witnessing of his gifts, and through it, having died, he still speaks. By belief, Enoch was translated so as not to see death, and was not found because Elohim had translated him. For before his translation he obtained witness that he pleased Elohim, but without belief it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. By belief, Noah, having been warned of what was yet unseen, having feared, prepared an ark to save his house, through which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to belief. By belief, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he was about to receive as an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. By belief he sojourned in the land of the promise as a stranger, dwelling in tents with Yitzchak and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise, for he was looking for the city having foundations, whose builder and maker is Elohim. By belief also Sarah herself was able to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the normal age, because she deemed him trustworthy who had promised. And so from one, and him as good as dead, were born as numerous as the stars of the heavens, as countless as the sand which is by the seashore. In belief all these died, not having received the promises, but seeing them from a distance, welcomed and embraced them, and confessed that they were aliens and strangers on the earth. For those who speak this way make it clear that they seek a fatherland. And yet if they had indeed kept remembering that place from which they had come out, they would have had the chance to return. But now they long for a better place, that is a heavenly. Therefore Elohim is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, for he has prepared a city for them. By belief Abraham, when he was tried, offered up to Yitzchak, and he who had received the promises offered up his only brought forth son, of whom it was said, in Yitzchak your seed shall be called, reckoning that Elohim was able to raise even from the dead, from which he received him back as a type. By belief Yitzchak blessed Jacob and Esau concerning that which was to come. By belief Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph, and did reverence on the top of his staff. By belief Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the outgoing of the children of Israel, and gave orders concerning his bones. By belief Moshe, having been born, was hidden 3 months by his parents, because they saw he was a comely child, and were not afraid of the sovereign's command. By belief, Moshe, having become great, refused to be called the son of the daughter of Pharaoh, choosing rather to be afflicted with the people of Elohim than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a time, deeming the reproach of Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Mitzrayim, for he was looking to the reward. By belief he left Mitzrayim, not fearing the wrath of the sovereign, for he was steadfast, as seeing him who is invisible. By belief he performed the Pesach and the sprinkling of blood, lest he who destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By belief they passed through the Red Sea, as by dry land, and when the Mitzrites tried it, they were drowned. By belief the walls of Jericho fell, having been surrounded for 7 days. By belief Rahab the whore did not perish with those who did not believe, having received the spies with peace. And what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to relate of Gideon and Barak and Shimshon and Jephthah, also of Dawid and Shemuel and the prophets, who through belief overcame reigns, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became mighty in battle, put foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection, and others were tortured, not accepting release, to obtain a better resurrection. And others had trial of mockings and floggings, and more, of chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were tried, they were sawn in two, they were slain with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being in need, afflicted, mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes of the earth, and having obtained witness through the belief, all these did not receive the promise, Elohim having provided what is better for us, that they should not be made perfect apart from us. Go to Matthew 10:40. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous one in the name of a righteous one shall receive a righteous one's reward. And whoever gives one of these little ones a cup of cold water in the name of a taught one, truly I say to you, he shall by no means lose his reward. One more witness. Revelation 22:12. And see, I am coming speedily, and my reward is with me, to give to each according to his work. Who discerns mistakes? Declare me innocent from concealed mistakes. Exodus 34:6. And Yahuwah passed before him and proclaimed, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, an El compassionate and showing favor, patient and great in loving commitment and truth, watching over loving commitment for thousands, forgiving crookedness and transgression and sin, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness of the father upon the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. And Moshe hurried and bowed himself toward the earth and did obeisance, and said, If now I have found favor in your eyes, O Yahuwah, I pray, let Yahuwah go on in our midst, even though we are a stiff-necked people, and forgive our crookedness and our sin, and take us as your inheritance. And he said, See, I am making a covenant before all your people. I am going to do wonders such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahuwah. For what I am doing with you is awesome. Guard what I command you today. See, I am driving out from before you the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite. Guard yourself, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land where you are going, lest it be a snare in your midst. But break down their slaughter places and smash their pillars and cut down their asherim. For you do not bow yourselves to another mighty one. For Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous El. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they whore after their mighty ones, and slaughter to their mighty ones, and one of them invites you when you eat of his slaughterings, and you take of his daughters for your sons, and his daughters whore after their mighty ones, and make your sons whore after their mighty ones. Do not make a molded mighty one for yourselves. Guard the festival of Matzot for 7 days, and you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, in the appointed time of the new moon of Abib, because in the new moon of Abib you came out of Mitzrayim. Everyone opening the womb is mine, every male firstborn among your livestock, whether bull or sheep, but the firstborn of a donkey you ransom with a lamb. And if you do not ransom, then you shall break his neck. Every firstborn of your sons you shall ransom, and they shall not appear before me empty-handed. Okay. The lamb. The lamb. Donkeys are working animals. Lambs are food. They're food, and they are clothing. So lambs, though a donkey will make your life easier, a lamb will sustain you. Revelation 21:27, and there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination or falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Also keep your servant back from presumptuous ones. We read all about that in Exodus 34. The horrors of the whores. Do not let them rule over me. This is David talking still, but again, about his, desire for sanctification and not to be forgotten by El. Then shall I be perfect and innocent of great transgression. Yup. Be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. Matthew 5:48. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing before you, O Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer.